All right, what's up? It's a quick book review, a little bit of a summary, a little bit of everything. The book is The Winter of Our Discontent by John Steinbeck. It was pretty good. You know, I think it started strong and kind of got a little bit weak at the end. This was one of those books. Like I generally like Steinbeck. I haven't read that much of him, but there was so much that was like so subtly said. Like, you're kind of supposed to read into it, which I normally like. Like, suppose it's like a Hemingway, right? And he doesn't really explain people's emotions. He just explains what they say. Like, I'm cool with that, but when there's like a major plot point that is kind of inferred, that is a little bit more upsetting because, suppose you miss 10% of the inferred stuff. Normally that's not going to hurt you, but if one of the inferred things is a major plot point, that does. So I mean, basically in the story there's this main character, Ethan, and he is part of a family that used to be a big, influential, rich family, successful family, but now they're not. And everyone's always ragging on him about that. Like, he's his wife, his kids are always complaining that they're not rich, and people that work next to him are always like, oh, you used to be successful, whatever. And so, and the book kind of explains that, I mean, in this book, right, corrupt people are rich. And, obviously in the world that's true some places, untrue other places, but in this book it's very much like, okay, if you're dishonest, then you're successful. And so, but he's like, he wants to be an honest man. But his kids are, his wife and kids are fed up with being poor, and so anyways, he does all these dishonest things. Like, he basically makes a tip. At least I think so. It's never expressly said, but I believe that he tips off the like FBI or whatever, some federal agent, that his boss is like an illegal immigrant, and he gives. And then there's this other thing where, like, he gives his friend who's a drunk some money, and he's saying, like, oh, go get help. And then his friend kills himself, but like, it's also possible that his friend could have gotten help and that it could have been a good thing. So those are two major plot points that, and when I look online, they say, okay, obviously he turned in his boss, and obviously he was trying to get his friend to kill himself. But like I said, I did not think that those were clear-cut, obvious things. So, man, you cannot mess up two super important plot points. And I felt like, that could have been done so much. And it wasn't even like, it's not like a hard thing to do. Just like, just explain it. Just explain it, make it clear. Maybe do it subtly once, and then like make it 100% clear later. So, other than that, I think it was really good. I think the beginning of the book kind of reminded me of the beginning of Ulysses, which I have not read. All right, I'm not some sort of literary genius, but I remember in the beginning of Ulysses, it very much like starts moment to moment. Like, he wakes up. What does he do when he wakes up? Who does he see? What does he eat for breakfast? Where does he go? It's like no time skips, right? And so that kind of felt similar to the beginning of this book. Like, he wakes up, whatever, he wakes his wife up, blah blah blah, walks to work, sees his friend, has a day at work, and so I really like that, actually. I wish that, I mean, that I just don't come across that too often in reading. The like no time skips at all sort of style. I enjoyed that. Yeah, like I said, I think I mean, I recommend it. I mean, it's hard to say that I recommend it when the ending is so weird, and like I feel like the quality of of what's happening is so volatile. Like it's really it does get at one point really interesting because his wife has all this money that she wants him to invest and like be a good businessman with. And then he takes that money and gives it to his homeless drunk friend. And so you're thinking this could go horribly wrong, and it's interesting. But then it doesn't really like play like the book doesn't really talk about his he's not nervous. Like it doesn't talk about like if I gave my wife's fucking fortune to some drunk friend of mine, I would be extremely nervous that things wouldn't work out, you know? So I don't know. I did enjoy it. But it's not like there are great books, and I would not say this is a great book, but it was a good read. I guess while I'm here, I might as well talk about the last two books that I read, which were The Pony, also by, here, I'll just talk about just Steinbeck, so The Pony. And here, I actually do have it, let me grab it. Oh, sorry, it's called The Red Pony. I take it back, it's called The Red Pony, not The Pony. And, dude, I really enjoyed this one, actually. So it's like, I think it's three little stories. Maybe four, I don't know. But one of them, all of them I think are quite good. The first one is about this kid gets, he's like living on a effing ranch out in California or something. And his dad is like a rancher, and the first part is his dad gives him like a pony. He like raises the pony, and then the pony eventually dies. It's really sad. Maybe it's not really sad, but it is sad. And I remember, like, the image that really stuck with me with that one was, well, first of all, he loved his pony, but he wanted to like let him outside, and so he let him outside, but he was like, oh, I hope it doesn't rain today. And he's like, oh, maybe I won't let him outside. And then this guy who like works at his dad's ranch was like, it's not gonna rain today, you're good, you can let him out. And he's like, are you sure? And then it rains and the horse gets sick and dies. It's like, man, that feels so bad to be the kid because you didn't want to do this thing, and then your friend convinced you to do it, and then it didn't work out. It's like a classic. It happens to everyone. Obviously not at that magnitude, but. And then the image that really stuck out was this horse is like super sick. It's like coughing and fucking snarling and all this shit. And the guy that works at his ranch is like trying to help the horse, and he cuts a hole in its neck, the horse's neck. It's like windpipe so that it can breathe because its nose is all stuffed up. And he puts this like pus around the hole, and it's like, oh my god, that is so gnarly. But at the same time, you really want this kid to like get his horse to be less sick, So you're horrified by the image, but you're also really, really rooting for this guy. So yeah. And then the second one was, oh wait, maybe there's three. Let's see. Okay, there's one. Oh yeah, there's one where like this old guy. There's four. Sorry about that. There's one where this like old guy wanders in, and that one's not that interesting. And then there's one where his dad wants to give him a pony again, part 2. And so he like gets some other horse to impregnate his horse, and it's kind of weird. And then this horse is pregnant. He's like waiting, and then the horse is born. That one was kind of interesting. Not so interesting. And then I actually really liked the last one. So in the last one, you got this kid's name is Jody. This kid that we've been talking about, and Jody's dad is like kind of a manly man. Doesn't really like to talk about feelings or anything. He's like kind of quiet. And his wife is like, we don't really get much of his wife, but she's clearly an understanding woman, a good mother. At least that's what it looks like. And so his wife's dad comes to town, and I mean, me living as a person in the world, not a lot of men are overjoyed at seeing their wife's dad come around. And I'm not saying that my family does that. I'm just saying, like, in general, that's a usually awkward thing. And it's like it's doubly awkward because this woman's dad like only talks about one thing. He like always says the same story. Like every single time he meets someone, he just says the same story, and it's like, man, we all know that person. And I mean, I won't like just tell the whole story, but that one was really interesting. I mean, it's always really fun, like reading about social situations that like you've never really read about. So, I think he does such a good job at like capturing emotions that you don't often think about. Like, oh, I suppose you're walking down the street and you can't, and your friend said he'd meet you at this bus stop, but you can't really see the bus stop yet, and you're walking. It's like that feeling when you're waiting, and like it's just like weird feelings that he can capture. So I thought that was good. Then I also read The Pearl. That one it was just hard for me reading. It's a story about these Native American people that are poor, and they're also like really like tribal, and it's just weird reading a story about Native Americans, from the high elite writers, a high, it's just weird. It's just really weird, and it's not like bad. The book isn't bad. It's just I don't know what to think of it. But it made me uncomfortable. Maybe not uncomfortable, but it was just like you should not be the one to write this. And that's like, I do hate when people like say like, oh, you can't, write about this subject. But like this is just one of those things that I don't think. It's just a weird situation, all right? Because in the book, it's like these, dirt poor Native Americans that all the white people hate, and that, all the white people are like tricking them, and it's like, man, it's just a weird story to read, written by, this guy. And so it was a fine read. It was pretty short. I liked it. It was suspenseful. It was good. But it was just, there was just a weird feeling. Maybe I'll call it for today. I mean, you guys let me know if what part of this was good, what part of this was bad. Obviously, I'm, just starting out here in the book realm. But yeah, I mean, I also just finished a Murakami book. Maybe I could just talk about I think I've almost read all of them. I could do a video about those things. I'm trying to finish some Hemingway one of these days. I'm almost done with Lord of the Rings. I'm starting a reread of the Harry Potter books. Man, those will suck in, and they won't let you out. else am I reading? I'm trying to read Catch-22, but it's kind of hard. You know, I really like I'll talk about this later, I should say. All right. Well, adios. Happy MLK weekend.